Good morning, everyone. Jim Laird here with an on-time Dr. Stillman.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, doctor. So if you want to get in on our discount, it ends today or tomorrow.
You can't be saying nonsense like that. Today or tomorrow. It either ends today or tomorrow.
I can't remember if today is the last day of September or is tomorrow the last day of September. It's tomorrow
Tomorrow's the last day of September.
Okay,
tomorrow's
so it ends tomorrow. Okay,
you gotta forgive Jim, people. It's his TBI.
Yeah. Lots of head trauma. Laissez-faire. So it basically our 50% off the first month of Fundamentals Wellness with Coaching ends tomorrow. So if you want to check that out, the link is in the description. Also get on our email list. We do weekly webinars, and you'll get an email Monday, Wednesday to get on those webinars. They are not live streamed, and then they'll be uploaded as a bonus to.
Well, they are live streamed, but they're just not live streamed to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the rest of them.
Well, yeah, they're recorded live streams. They're just not publicly streamed. Thank you, doctor. So,
well, they are streamed to people on the list, so that is kind of public.
Yeah, but that's a private stream.
You have to be on the list to get the invite.
Right. It's not publicly. It's not
right because we say things that would get us punished by the algorithm.
Right, and we're probably going to do that today as well. So
we do that every day.
Since I'm already in Instagram jail, I saw a really neat clip on Instagram. It's actually narrated by Morgan Freeman, so it's very calming. And before I talk about that, the title is why so many people are sick and overweight. And I think Dr. Stillman and I would both agree that the overall common theme is humans living a more indoor lifestyle, less sun, less manual labor. That's probably the number one. But the number two, there's a couple of big factors here. And in this little mini documentary that Morgan Freeman was doing, it talks about how the cigarette companies bought up all the food companies. And then the food companies basically hire scientists, and Rob Wolf gets into this in his book about Wired to Eat, where he talks about the neuroregulation of appetite. And these scientists basically are paid to make you addicted to the food, just like with cigarettes. They use nicotine to get people addicted to cigarettes. And the cigarette companies argued for years, no, the cigarettes are not addictive. They're not addictive. And then finally they proved they're addictive, and they had to regulate it. And so they're doing basically the same model they did in their cigarette business with the food companies. And they said that the food company produces 6,000 calories per person of food. That's what they produce daily. So
in the United States?
Yeah, in the United States. And, of course, this is owned by Vanguard and, all that.
6,000 calories per person?
Per person, per day.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's a lot of food.
You combine the indoor lifestyle with being addicted to processed food. And I mean, the number one thing you can do if you want to lose weight, get healthier, is to stop eating industrialized processed food. But then the thing they forgot, they left out, was the government is subsidizing all these crops that essentially are used in the processed food industry. That are making people sick. So you've got the government behind the scenes subsidizing the food to make it cheaper, because you go to the grocery store and, a Twinkie or a Snickers bar is cheaper than, and we can plug Dr. Stillman's book,
I wrote about this in my book,
which will soon be on Audible, by the way.
Which I've been talking about this since I was in college, which is 15 years ago now.
So you go to the grocery store and you buy a bag of carrots, and it's more expensive than a Snickers bar or Twinkie, right? Which involves factories and all sorts of chemicals and stuff. And you grow something in the ground, and it's all. And then, of course, you got the pharmaceutical industrial complex, which is making absolute fortunes. They always pick on the oil. They always pick on the oil industry, right? But they, of course, never pick on the pharmaceutical industry.
Never. That is the golden calf, the sacred cow. Thou shalt not criticize the pharma cartel.
Right. So there's a little synopsis for you, doctor. You can run with that a little bit.
Did you know that I wrote my honors thesis in college on this topic?
I'm surprised they let you graduate.
I know, right? Especially because I went to a liberal arts college where virtually everyone was liberal. But the funny thing about this is at the
But how
time,
long ago was that?
15 years.
So 15 years ago, though, there was still some rational liberals.
I know.
Like
There
there
were.
was
It's
still
true.
there was still like Bill Maher's that
I
Bill
know.
Maher.
I
If you
know.
disagree with Bill Maher, he's basically going to say, "I don't like what you think, but you have every right to think that way. I just don't think you're right." Right?
Yeah. So I wrote
Now they're
that. I
just
wrote my honors thesis on the public health effects of factory farming, specifically animal factory farming, and it was very clear the government is the problem straight through the whole thing. They created a system where they subsidized commodity crops to make them cheap. That's corn, soy, wheat, etc. That allowed a lot of those commodity crops to then be cheap enough to feed to the pigs or cattle or whatever else in the feedlots. Then the states would pass laws that were favorable to different industries. So then you get these really, really weird situations where like 25% of all, I don't quote me on these statistics because A, they're old, and B, I don't know if I remember all of this accurately from 15 years ago when I was researching it. But approximately, if I recall correctly, 50% or 25% of all the hogs in the United States that are raised for slaughter are raised in Iowa. 25%. Think about it. There's 50 states. Iowa's not one of the biggest states. 25% of all the hogs are being raised in Iowa, 12.5% in North Carolina. So you have millions and millions and millions of animals. There's no sewage. There's no municipal. Like if you had a city of 12,000, 100,000 people, it would be required to have septic and sewage, and municipal water and treatment. None of that applies to animals. So you get these huge amounts of pollution, these very small areas, which
you
is not
never live by a big industrial pig farm because it when you drive by and that wind changes,
terrible.
man, it'll make your eyes water. I mean,
You'll suffer a lot if you live next to one of
lot.
those places, and that was what disgusted me with the whole thing, is that none of this would have happened if the government had kept its nose out of the food system, and they didn't have any reason to really do this.
Out of everything.
Out of everything, yeah. So anyway, they created that, and then what they did is, if you think about it, right, they're actually, by the public road system, they're subsidizing the transport of all this stuff, which has also hurt the family farm. So I go through this in my thesis, and I talk about all these different problems, and I said, look, the American food system would be incredible if the government just weren't involved. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, that is not the case, and it's going to get worse and worse. And then you've got corporations that are aligning with agendas to basically impose on people what they're going to be eating. So you got to eat this, not that.
And that makes it extremely important for people to focus on their own self-reliance, sustainability. Sustainability became such a politicized word, I think, sadly, because the idea of being sustainable is commonsensical. Who wants to be unsustainable in their growth or their strategy, their lifestyle, right? And it just became this buzzword that meant, we're going to eat cricket flour and, not eat animals and I don't know, live in tiny little super energy efficient, homes. None of it has to be that way.
You're going to live in the metaverse. That's what you're going to do.
And so bringing this back to the topic,
girlfriend.
Why are people sick and overweight? They're sick and overweight because of technology, and they're sick and overweight because the government has created a food system where it is incredibly expensive and impractical to actually eat healthy.
Right. And you have to make a deliberate choice. And that's where having support groups and coaching and things like that are so important, because you are going it's kind of like the beer bug. There was so much propaganda and so many people saying, you're going to kill grandma.
There still is so much.
And it still is that, but you've got that you're being beat over the head with, not only are you being brainwashed, but you're being forced financially, because it's so much easier to just eat the cereal, to eat the box of cereal, to, feed your kids juicy juice. And it's just so convenient. In order to buck the system, it's going to require, time and effort and going outside. And it's so easy to just scroll through Instagram or YouTube than it is to just, put the phone down and go for a walk or go outside and mow the grass, or, so you need the whole system is rigged, and it's designed to make you addicted to it. And so you need accountability, and you need people to remind you that, hey, look, if you want this, you're going to have to like manage this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have a really hard time or not self-aware enough yet to do that. And they need some support with that. So, it's like when everyone's walking that direction and you've had 10 people walking the other direction, people look at you like you've lost
Crazy.
your mind. And it's very
Totally
easy
right.
for you. It's very easy for you to get frustrated and feel alone and lost when you're one of the few people,
Who's acting rationally.
who's acting rationally. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Jim, no, I am not. I'm not angling for any political appointments. So yeah.
No, we want to stay out of politics as much as possible. Like I don't want to put a giant big target on my head.
So yeah, that's why people are sick and overweight today. And the answer is to make life more simple. It's to cut expenses that you don't need for technology that's only hurting you. It's to focus on the little things, because the little things add up. I mean, you wouldn't believe how much they add up. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that in their backyard they can probably grow enough food to replace all of the fresh food or fresh items on their grocery bill if they live in a warm place. And if you are willing to put up,
depending on where they live.
yeah, and even if you live in a cold place, throw up a greenhouse, right?
Well, I was
Extend your
talking
growing season by
to my
2 or 3
brother the other
months.
day, and his son shot 2 deer, and that's literally going to feed them for like almost 2 years, the whole family. So
That's amazing, right? That's amazing.
and that's organic, grass-fed deer.
Grass-fed.
Yeah.
Free
So
range
it's
deer.
really funny. It's not funny, but the guy who was like head of the agriculture department at the University of Iowa got fired a couple years ago because he stood up and said cows are supposed to eat grass. And he immediately got fired for saying that from the university, because guess what? The number one crop in Iowa is corn. And what do they feed it to? Cows and pigs. And so he was saying that, the number one, which is true. Cows are supposed to eat grass, bison, and eat that kind of stuff. I mean, they'll eat corn if they're starving to death, but he got fired for that. So that's the world we live in. You get fired and ostracized and put in jail for telling the truth.
That's almost unbelievable.
What?
Wow. That's remarkable. That really happened.
It really happened.
That really happened.
Well, are you surprised with some of the things that are happening today?
I'm not. But I think what's funny.
You have certain government bodies saying that men can breastfeed.
Sure, no, I get it. But what's funny about this, right, is that not funny actually at all, is that you'll find people who kind of want to have their cake and eat it too on both sides of this aisle. There's the people over here who are like, well, we want everything to be, we want people to be free, and we want to have whatever traditional family values and so on and so forth. And then those same people will do things like say, well, we have to, and they'll vote for people who are going to, create these giant agricultural subsidies or new regulations or whatever. And so there's a lot of problems on both sides of the aisle.
Well, I was watching a clip from Milton Friedman, and a great economist, and he's like, the only thing you need to know about the economy is how much is the government spending, because you see all these people complaining about how much things cost right now, and they're blaming corporations, and they're going, and it comes down to government spending. The more money the government spends, the more what if you get taxed with inflation. I mean, that's what it is. The more money the government spends, the more inflation there is. The more money they print, the more inflation there is. And they don't understand that at all. They have no understanding of economics. And then what happens is the government comes in and says, we're going to put price controls in, and we're going to take over the market. And then we run out of stuff. And so like the Soviet Union, people don't realize, or Venezuela, there was no shortage of money. There was way too much money. There was a shortage of things to buy with that money.
Well, but also a shortage of, in some cases, you get a shortage of, you need so much money to buy things that even though there's a lot of money, you need even more in order to buy the things that you need.
Well, the things is really the important thing, because if there's no things, it doesn't matter how much money there is.
That's true.
Right. So that's what drives up. So you get these, what happens is you print the money, inflation starts running out of control because there's more money chasing less things, and then the government says we're going to fix the prices and we're going to make sure, like for example, if you said, like, say gasoline, right? Say there's a shortage, say we have an emergency and there's a shortage of gasoline, and they raise the gas prices to 25.
I get what you mean.
Well, I'm explaining it for the other folks too,
Mm-hmm.
because we've talked about this stuff all the time. So if you raise the gas, say their gas prices go up to $25 a gallon, only the people that really need that gasoline for absolute need it are going to buy it, right? But if you say there's a disaster, there's a shortage of gasoline, but you can't raise that price over $2, everybody in their freaking, remember it during there was people putting gasoline in trash bags.
Yeah.
They were filling trash bags with gasoline. So if there was a disaster and there was a shortage of gasoline and they said you cannot raise your prices over $2, there wouldn't be any gasoline left. So that's the beauty of the free market, is that it basically protects people from having things run out, right? So the goal would be to basically allow small businesses, allow people to innovate so they could produce more things. That way the price stays reasonable, right? But that's not the case. They're doing everything they can to centralize and make it harder for people to produce things on their own.
Yeah. So buy my book, Dying to Be Free.
Mm-hmm.
Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to get outside. Join the Fundamentals of Wellness, 50% off the first month, and then 11 monthly payments after that. Right, Jim?
Yeah. And of course you can cancel at any time if you don't find value in it.
It's true.
That's totally fine. So have a great day.
Take care, everyone.